Hello, my name is Fuad Ahmad. I'm the Director of Creative Resources for the Publicis One Global Network. I'm currently based out of Bogota, Colombia. Before that, I worked in Thailand for Leo Burnett, and before that, I spent a decade in Chicago for Leo Burnett Worldwide's Creative Exchange Department. I'm grateful for your time today, and I hope you find this material interesting, informative, and useful. So over the course of this Future 101 webinar series, we'll discuss how specific technologies and platforms are affecting how we communicate with people and how we can best serve our clients. This month, we're going to take a broad look at bots and chatbots. Now today, there are millions of bots operating online. Automated software is everywhere on the internet, performing tasks and doing whatever it's been programmed to do. I can't tell you about the full range of bots in an hour, so this session will primarily be an orientation, a conversation starter, and I've tried to make this subject accessible and interesting to everyone. I know some of you have probably already built chatbots for your clients, so some of this might be familiar, but what I'm going to share with you today is a meta perspective on the changing landscape we're operating in, because we're at a very interesting collective inflection point with this specific technology. So I'll tell you some stories, I'll show you a few examples, we'll look at some mistakes that have been made, and we'll briefly consider how bots are affecting public discourse in democracies and also how they can potentially poison social media platforms. There's a lot of hype surrounding chatbots. We'll note the difference between the rosy predictions we've heard and the reality many of us might have encountered online. So at the end of this hour, I'm going to give you some tools, and I'm going to encourage you to go start building chatbots today. And I hope you'll be intrigued and inspired enough by this content to try. So let's jump in. We're going to start in the city of Las Vegas. I've never actually been to Las Vegas, so I'm not the best tour guide, but there's somebody here I would like you to meet. This is the Cosmopolitan Hotel at the very heart of the Las Vegas Strip. It's got 3,000 rooms, a casino, a stage show, live music venues, bars, restaurants, everything you could possibly want in a luxury, high-end Las Vegas hotel. So let's pretend, for the sake of argument, that we have enough time and money to vacation at a hotel like the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas. Let's imagine that we're guests here. When you first check into this hotel, you're handed a business card with this message printed on the front. I am the answer to the question you never asked. And on the back of that card, there's a message, a phone number, and a name. As you make your way through the hotel, you'll see Rose's name paired with a recurring visual motif of a beautiful woman whose face has been obscured, digitally deconstructed to make it tantalizingly close to a portrait, but it's still not quite clear. Now, paired with this imagery across all of the hotel's video screens are more words. It's not about who I am. It's about who you could be. Know my secrets. Text me. Rose. She's also on the key card to get into your room. Seek, and she shall find. Meet Rose, resident mischief maker. Now, that's a pretty awesome job title. Once you get to your room, you will find a matte black envelope sealed shut with purple wax that's addressed to the one who pushes my buttons. When you crack open this envelope, you find what looks like a handwritten note which reads, "Couldn't let you come here empty-handed now, could I? Meet me at the Chandelier and I'll buy you my signature cocktail. It's reserved for my most favorite guests. Just show the bartender this note and they'll know what to do. Go ahead and sit, sip, and steal some glances at a stranger or two. XOXO, Rose." So, a mysterious stranger has just offered to buy you a free drink at a nice bar. That sounds good. You head to the bar, you hand the bartender the note, you get a delicious free cocktail in return, and you find yourself looking at that business card once again. You just got to Vegas, you've never been here before, the night is young, you're one drink into what promises to be an epic vacation. You are open to all sorts of possibilities. So why not? You pull out your phone, you enter Rose's number, and you send her a one-word text. Hi. And in return, you get this message. Bold move, texting someone you don't know. I'm Rose, and just like that, I'm not a stranger anymore. Ready to discover the secrets of this place? And so begins a conversation. Now, everything leading up to that first text message exchange is designed to build trust and familiarity and comfort. It's a hard sell, or a seduction, depending on your perspective, but it functions as a carefully choreographed onboarding process. It's an invitation to each guest for a deeper experience. And once you send that first hi, that is when Rose actually goes to work. Now, Rose is a chatbot. When the hotel receptionist hands you that first business card, he introduces Rose as the digital concierge of the Cosmopolitan. So you should be able to tell from the very first moment that you check in that she's probably not human. She is a bot. But Rose does not sound like a bot. Now here are a few examples of how Rose talks to guests. This is not the typical language of a chatbot. Rose writes texts that feel intimate and that even approach inappropriate. Each message she sends is just 1 or 2 sentences, and she'll include emojis, she'll share stories, she'll give you choices. Her texts provide information, but they also create a level of familiarity with each individual guest. What she's doing is establishing a relationship dynamic. Now here are a few more of Rose's exchanges, and you can see that she has what appears to be real human depth. There's a very specific personality coming across of a cultured woman with taste, with attitude, and with very strong opinions. And Rose is very deliberately provocative. All of these characteristics are by design, and they're rooted in the Cosmopolitan's brand. So this is the tagline and motto of the Cosmopolitan Hotel of Las Vegas: just the right amount of wrong. Now that is the brand positioning of the hotel. So Rose, who says things that are steeped in innuendo and who flirts with you shamelessly over SMS and who functions as your personal concierge, is essentially an enabler of your most questionable urges. And by guiding your decision-making, she is the perfect expression of the Cosmopolitan's brand ethos. So let's take a quick look at how Rose functions. Now this is called a conversation tree or a dialogue tree. These are often used in game design or whenever a designer or writer is mapping out an interactive experience where users have choices and options. Every choice someone makes leads down a different path, and the authors of these trees have to write conversations for each possible path. So Rose has 1,000 different responses pre-written, but each user will take a different journey through Rose's dialogues. So Rose will tell you what you want to know, but she's also directing your entire customer journey each time you interact with her. She'll share specific promotions, and she's constantly adding value to your experience, but she won't contact you unless you ask her for something. She is silent unless spoken to. Now this is key. She's not spamming you. She is waiting on you. The guest initiates all conversations. Now here are some of Rose's KPIs, and you can see that the majority of the Cosmopolitan's guests have enjoyed interacting with her. In fact, since she's launched, Rose has actually received multiple marriage proposals via text message from smitten guests. Now, I love this case because it demonstrates how a thoughtfully planned, well-executed chatbot can enhance and grow your business and transform how people engage with your brand. Rose crafts and delivers a customized experience for every single guest who stays at the Cosmopolitan. Luxury hotels that cater to VIPs and stars have always offered that level of dedicated service and attention to detail, primarily to big spenders and special guests. But now at the Cosmopolitan, Rose provides every guest with that VIP experience. Every single person staying at the hotel has their own private and personal concierge, on call at all hours of the day and night, a text message away, whose job is to serve up what is just the right amount of wrong, specifically tailored to you. Now this work was produced by RGA Chicago, and the next chatbot I'll show you is from RGA New York. But before we get there, let's take a second to define some terms. All right, let's define chatbots. Chatbots are just computer programs designed to communicate in human languages. You can converse with chatbots by sending them text messages or through chat channels. And with some of them, you can talk to them using voice commands the way you would talk to Siri or Amazon's Alexa. Now, Amazon's Alexa and Apple's Siri are called artificially intelligent virtual personal assistants, but that's really just a fancy way to say that they are glorified chatbots. They listen to what you say to them, and if they understand you, they can respond and perform tasks. Now, they're good at some things, and they're not so good at others, but it's still very, very early in this story, and this technology is still very new and improving rapidly with each passing day. In fact, this tech has become so familiar to us that we're growing accustomed to be able to talk to smart software. It's easy to forget that computers have only very recently learned how to make any sense of the messy and murky world of human languages. Human languages reflect humanity's complexity, our cultural diversity, our underlying animal nature, and so much more. A single word can mean 1,000 different things in different contexts or in different tones. Our languages are subtle and sophisticated, constantly changing, and even though there are rules to how we're supposed to use language, we toy with those rules and ignore them all the time. That is the artistry in how humans communicate. Now, computers don't work that way. Computers have to follow rules. That's how they're programmed, and that's one reason why communicating in human language is such a complex skill to acquire. Now, this is actually the native language of computers. Binary code, ones and zeros. This is the mother tongue of software. All digital data is stored and processed in sequences of zeros and ones. An 8-digit sequence of zeros and ones is a bit, and bits make up bytes, bytes make up megabytes, and so on. These are the building blocks of all computerized data. What has ushered in the current revolution in artificial intelligence and triggered the rise of chatbots is the newfound ability of computers to understand and use human language. Just like all digital data can be reduced down to zeros and ones, all human intelligence can be broken down into words. Human knowledge is encapsulated and contained in streams of words and in our languages. So computers learning how to use words and speak our languages opens up a universe of new possibilities for both them and us. Now, there's an entire branch of artificial intelligence dedicated to teaching computers human language acquisition, and that field is called natural language processing, or NLP. It's the recent advances in NLP that have been fueling the chatbot boom. The progress has been so rapid that soon people believe that chatbots will be indistinguishable from humans when they converse. They'll be so smart that they'll be able to talk about anything. Now, NLP opens up the possibility for us to craft expansive, immersive, AI-driven chatbots for our clients. But I want to point out that simpler chatbots that have a narrower focus are much easier to implement, and they tend to be more successful than more ambitious and complicated bots. We don't actually need NLP or artificial intelligence to develop chatbots for our clients. In other words, you don't need to teach a chatbot everything in order for it to have a conversation about one single subject. Now, this quote from Bruce Lee concisely captures what I'm trying to say. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. Instead of trying to create chatbots that have completely mastered the full scope of human communication, we should instead focus on making chatbots that can handle one specific kind of interaction really well. It doesn't need to do 10,000 things. It doesn't need to know Shakespeare. It just needs to be able to do one thing. So our brief for our clients is not to make something fancy and elaborate and ambitious. It's just to make something that's effective and that works and that adds value. So this next bot is a really great example of this. Now, this is Cindy Gallop. Cindy Gallop is an absolute legend in advertising and beyond. She's had an amazing career, and she's famous for a lot of things, one of which is she's outspoken, and she advocates constantly for causes she believes in, like gender equality and equal rights. She's been an important voice for a long time, and she's a hero to a lot of different people. Now, one of the issues that Cindy's been fighting for is equal pay for women, because across the world, women get paid less than men for doing the same work, which is unfortunately true in most industries. It's a global structural problem, and activists have been using any and all methods to try and correct this. So progress has been made, but the problem still persists, and people like Cindy are constantly looking for new solutions.
Unfortunately, women are 25% less likely to get a raise than men. Because of that, I was asked, "Hey Cindy, we want to turn you into a chatbot that helps women ask for a raise." And I said, "Yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. What a great cause." Then they said, "Exactly. And because it's for a good cause, could you do it for free?" And I said, "Nope. Pay me. Isn't that the point? Because I know my worth. So should you. Message me to get the absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money that you deserve."
That was a video that RGA released on YouTube, announcing the arrival of the Cindy Gallop chatbot. Now, these are a couple tweets she sent out as well, and even though no money was spent promoting the bot, and they didn't buy any media to publicize this initiative, within just a week, just from the social media buzz they generated, 100,000 people talked to the Cindy Gallop chatbot. That is a big impact in a matter of days, 100,000 users in a week, 83% of which were women, who used the bot to build the confidence to ask for a raise. Now, this chatbot was not designed to capture the full scope of who Cindy Gallop is. It can't tell you her opinions, it doesn't know her stories, it doesn't reflect her whole personality, but it does have her tone of voice. And it's great at doing the one thing that it's been designed for, which is to coach people to ask for a raise. It offers tips and specific advice, and then it encourages people to go out and get what they deserve. Now, you can see some of the bot's conversations here on the right. It is connected to an online salary database, so it can give you current, detailed information that's relevant to your job, and it will arm you with the information you need to make a case to your boss about why you deserve what Cindy calls, quote, an absolute goddamn shit ton of money, unquote. Now, that's a great example of how a bot can expand reach. Cindy Gallop has already been a mentor to lots of people around the world over the course of her career, and she's had this specific conversation many times with people who've come to her asking for advice. But by turning her into a chatbot, she went from having this conversation on an individual basis to the handful of people lucky enough to know her personally to reaching 100,000 people in just a week. Now, that's one of the reasons why chatbots hold so much promise. Bots can reach so many more people than humans can. They can talk to 1,000 people in the same amount of time it takes a human being to talk to just one person. So bots are inevitably going to unlock efficiencies that will change how we live and change how we work. For example, we've all encountered lines like this. We've all had to get queue numbers from a machine and then wait our turn. The promise of chatbots is that we will never have to stand in one of these lines or sit in a waiting room ever again. Now, that's a very attractive promise, but we're not quite there yet. The bots still need some work, and people still need to get used to them. But this queueless future, that is the direction we are headed towards. Now, some brands are going to get there faster than others. Starbucks, for example, is implementing chatbots into their workflow. A year ago, they started beta testing what they call the Barista Bot. The Barista Bot is currently only available for a test group of 1,000 iPhone users because Starbucks is working to perfect this chatbot and iron out the kinks and bugs before they roll it out to all of their stores worldwide. So today, only that 1,000-person test group is using this, but that group can order coffee through an instant message or a voice command.
I want a flat white and a banana bread warmed. Short. Double upside down macchiato half decaf with room and a splash of cream in a grande cup. Yes.
If you look at this conversation, the Barista Bot responds, confirms the order. It can take your payment over the phone so that when you get to the cafe, your drink is already ready. You walk in, skip the line, pick up your drink, and walk out. No physical currency has changed hands, but you're in and out of Starbucks in seconds with your personalized drink. It's hard to imagine a more efficient purchase. Now, this is a great example of what's called conversational commerce. Conversational commerce is just a fancy way of saying you talk with a bot, and the bot sells you things in your chat window. In Starbucks' 5-year long-term strategic plan, they think that conversational commerce will be the key to their continued growth and success worldwide. They believe that the efficiency of the Barista Bot will give them a competitive advantage over all other cafes and coffee chains. Because if Starbucks offers faster service for a personalized product, people will come to expect that speed, and they'll be willing to pay for that speed. So one thing I want to point out is, in this scenario, in this coffee purchase, the Barista Bot didn't actually make your drink. Your coffee was still prepared by a human being. You're still getting the human touches you've come to expect from Starbucks, the hand-pulled espresso, the latte art on the surface of your drink, the scribbled note on your cup. All the things that characterize the Starbucks brand experience are still present. A human being is in the loop, playing a central role, but a chatbot facilitated the transaction. Now that is increasingly what awaits us in the future, this hybrid experience where both bots and humans collaborate together to serve customers, because both will be seamlessly integrated into workflows. What we're talking about is automation. Now, new forms of automation are emerging constantly, ever since the invention of the assembly line over a century ago. Successful automation streamlines processes. Automation is not a new phenomenon at all. It's actually deeply embedded into our lives because almost all mass-produced goods have been created through a process of industrial automation. It's in our food supply. We don't even see it anymore. Now, these are examples of manufacturing automation, but service automation is where chatbots really have an opportunity to shine. Chatbots give businesses the ability to automate customer service. Now, automated customer service already exists in the form of phone menus you encounter whenever you call a company. If you've ever had to call a big company, you will almost always get a recording that offers you a series of menus, right? They'll say, "Your call is very important to us. Dial 1 if you were experiencing service problems. Dial 2 if, blah, blah, blah." It's usually an infuriating process to dial one of those numbers, and I'm sure you've experienced that frustration. That is where the bar is at today for automated customer service. It is so low and so frustrating that chatbots should be able to exceed people's expectations and provide more convenient, better service than what we're used to getting from pre-recorded phone menus. So one key step in deciding whether or not we want or need chatbots for our clients is to take a look at our clients' current customer service model. Examine what kinds of conversations people are already having with our clients, and chances are there's an opportunity here for a chatbot to be able to automate some aspect of customer service. Now, there are some conversations you can automate, and some you can't, and you will still have to have a human somewhere in the loop or have human oversight of your chatbot, but there are plenty of conversations that a bot can handle with ease. Linguistic scholars classify conversations into two major categories. Now, transactional conversations are the kind of short, polite exchanges we have with people whenever money changes hands. These are the kinds of quick exchanges you have with clerks, with waiters, with service providers, with people who you don't know but you need something from. These conversations are characterized by a very clear, purpose-driven exchange of information. They have specific context, and you're talking to achieve a very specific result. Interactional conversations are the kinds of dialogues you have with people when you know them. You already have a relationship with someone, or you're building a relationship with them, and you're talking about anything. There's no clear objective in mind of the conversation. Now, in this case, there's a human connection, or there's the possibility of a human connection. So your conversation is exploratory, without a clear agenda. Now, this is how we talk to our friends. Interactional conversations are less formal, they're much more fluid, they employ slang, and they don't have the same rigid structure as transactions. Now, you can create chatbots today to handle both kinds of conversations, but transactional conversations are much easier and simpler to design for. So here are two examples. Now, on the left is a bot from Adoro, a fashion retailer. And this bot is another example of conversational commerce. You tell the bot what you want to buy, what you're interested in, and the bot will present you with options. It's a very simple and also a very dangerous way to shop. So, for example, in this conversation, this person tells the bot they need clothes for an upcoming wedding. And the bot says, is it a traditional wedding or something different? And the person responds, and then the bot serves up a series of products on screen in the chat window to look at and possibly to buy. Now, on the right is an example of an interactional bot. Now, this is a bot that can handle interactional dialogue. This is taken from the movie Her, a 2013 film directed by Spike Jonze, which is the story of how a man becomes completely infatuated with a new, advanced female AI operating system. It's a modern-day romantic comedy. It's basically the story of man meets chatbot, man falls in love with chatbot, chatbot breaks man's heart, man is sad. I recommend this movie because it's thought-provoking, it's from Spike Jonze, who's a master filmmaker, and it's a great example of how bots can succeed at interactional conversations and relationships if they're evolved enough. Another great example is from the TV series Black Mirror on Netflix. There's an episode called Be Right Back that is a fantastic example of the future of bots. Now, these are scenes that offer glimpses of where we're headed with this technology. And there's a general consensus emerging that this is what the future holds. For example, this startling prediction came from 2016. Now, the same report from 2016 also said this: 85% of all customer interactions will be handled without a human agent within 5 years. Now, we're already seeing things like self-checkout in stores and chatbots in conversational commerce, but 85% implies that automation in customer service and retail is going to scale up rapidly. And more thought leaders and companies are backing this movement as well. Here is Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, in a keynote speech from 2016 where he says, "Bots are the new apps." This level of enthusiasm for chatbots is not just excitement about the potential of the tech and its efficiency, there's also a clear underlying economic rationale driving this shift. Now, the fact is, today's app economy is stagnating. It's saturated. The mobile app boom that shaped the last decade is now largely over. Now, even though the global app market is still growing exponentially, that's mostly because more people are coming online from emerging markets. More people are getting smartphones, and the growth of mobile gaming is what's actually driving the profitability of apps. But the growth of this market is not because all of us are buying and constantly downloading dozens of new apps. In fact, after 10 years of selling mobile apps, what we've noticed is that 25% of all mobile apps are opened once and then are never used again. The apps that most people download and use are chat apps. So it makes more sense from a financial perspective to build bots that operate inside of WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger than to build a new app that's unlikely to get traction. So that presents us with a choice. Should we build apps or should we build bots? So today there are over 4 billion people using messaging apps across the world. Now on the left are the current 2018 monthly use numbers. And on the right you'll see that today there are a larger number of people using messaging apps than the number of people currently using social media. So the moment when this shift happened was around 2015, and it's why this next event caused such a big stir in the business world. This is Facebook's F8 conference from April of 2016, where Mark Zuckerberg and his team announced that they were opening up Facebook Messenger to third-party developers and bots and businesses. Now, this is a big deal because the Facebook Messenger platform in 2016 had close to 1 billion users. And suddenly, it's a lucrative, new, wide-open communication channel for anyone and everyone to operate in.
We were excited about the Messenger platform because we want to be where the client is spending time, and the client is spending time on Messenger.
And the idea is that when you're already in Messenger, you should be able to do more than just chat with your friends. You should be able to chat with businesses. You should be able to get things done and purchase things over Messenger.
It offered interactivity, it offered scale, and it offered the chance for storytelling in a way which is truly unique and different than anything else the world had seen.
We launched in August last year and grew the bot to 2.3 million users worldwide so far.
And now we have 100,000 daily active users.
At Chatfield, we power more than 60,000 bots that are connected in Messenger.
Over Messenger, we've actually driven over $1 million in hotel bookings since we launched.
We looked at our booking rate through Messenger and saw that over holiday, we had an 11% lift in bookings completed versus our other channels. So we're really excited about those results.
For building a new business on Messenger, I would really focus on doing one thing really, really well, and then add on top of that.
Spend time on the copy. Because with chatbots, tone of voice and relevance are the new design, in a way.
Don't think of yourself as a bot developer. Don't pigeonhole yourself like that. Think of yourself as making a great product, and a product that was impossible to make even 2 to 3 years ago because the technology stack didn't exist. So what can you do now that's a little bit magic that you couldn't do before? And now's the best time in the universe to build those things because the tools and the capabilities exist.
So everyone can see the potential here in 2016, and this event triggers a flood of new investment and interest and a huge wave of hype around the promise of chatbots to transform business. Now that was April of 2016, and a lot has happened in the 2 years since then. The expectations surrounding chatbots have followed this trajectory very closely. This curve is called the Gartner hype cycle. It charts the very predictable cycle of rising excitement and then the inevitable disillusionment that humanity experiences whenever we try out a new technology that has overpromised on what it can deliver. So this is essentially a map of how the hype we create builds to unreasonable levels and then burns out, and only then starts to grow at a more predictable and steady pace. So whenever there's an innovation that leads to new kinds of products, and these products generate a mountain of publicity that results in unrealistic ideas about the impact of the technology in question. Now, for example, I just showed you a prediction saying that within 2 years, we'll all be talking more to bots than we will to our husbands or wives. Now, that's a claim coming from this area of inflated expectations. It's not realistic. And sooner or later, after we build to those expectations, they collapse because problems become apparent with all new technology. New tech takes a long time to perfect. It's only after a wave of problems emerge, and then those problems are addressed and handled, and that better, safer, and cheaper products come out. That's when people start embracing new technology. This whole hype cycle takes a few years to play out, and it's only after several years characterized by innovation, product development, trial and error, failures, and successes, along with a few dead startup companies littered along the way. Only after all that happens does a new technology really become commonplace, resulting in mass adoption. So chatbots have followed this cycle closely, and 2016 was really the year of the peak of inflated expectations, when this tech looked infinitely promising and lucrative and the whole world was enchanted by the potential. But since then, serious problems with bots have become apparent, which we'll talk about next. We've moved beyond inflated expectations and we've now entered a new phase. Now, this second chart I've put on the bottom of this slide breaks down how different groups of people embrace innovation, and it correlates closely with the Gartner hype cycle. Whenever innovation happens, some people jump in early, and other people will adopt a wait-and-see attitude. Now, all of us fit on this spectrum somewhere. Are we enthusiastic change agents? Are we the type of people to get in line at the Apple Store and camp out for a new iProduct? Or are we skeptics, like the last people we know to get a mobile phone? Most of us are somewhere in the middle. The majority of us usually adopt new technology when the price point becomes accessible, when the price point is low enough for us to afford something. And that usually only happens after this first giant wave of hype rises and then crashes. If we're going to start building chatbots now for our clients, we are still part of this blue early majority group of pragmatists, which means we can learn from the failures of those who jumped in first, the people who came early, and we can take advantage of new emerging methodologies and best practices to create interesting new solutions for our clients. So it's a good place to be because we have some hard-won wisdom and perspective on our side. Right now, we can look ahead and appreciate where this technology is headed, but enough time has also passed and enough issues have already arisen that we can see the problems emerging caused by the widespread proliferation of chatbots. And unfortunately, when you take a good look around, we have to acknowledge that there are some very bad things happening with this technology. And that's to be expected because anytime a technology is democratized and a new tool becomes widely available and accessible for the first time, without strong barriers for entry, there are always unforeseen consequences. People do unexpected things with new tech. And right now, we're just beginning to realize that bots in the wrong hands can cause immense amounts of damage. Now that brings me to this guy. This man is one of the most polarizing people on the planet. And even though I don't want to talk about him, his political rise is intimately tied to the story of bots over the last few years. In fact, I could spend an entire hour talking about just the bots linked to this man's campaign, because it's the kind of stranger-than-fiction story that gets weirder and more absurd the deeper you dive into it. But this isn't really the time or place for that. In fact, I'm going to avoid saying anything about this man and his politics because he is so divisive, but we have to talk about him from the perspective of one communications professional to another. We build brands for a living, and we have to learn from the way bots are being used to bolster this man's personal brand. Bots are being used to amplify his tweets and spread his messages. Bots are being used to attack his opponents. Bots are being used to shape public discourse and to affect national dialogues and international debates all across the world. So these small, little pieces of software that live online, which might seem innocuous and harmless at first glance, can, in the wrong hands, be used to erode and poison social media platforms and conversations. These tools can undermine democracies. In fact, we're just beginning to understand and appreciate how bots have been weaponized. Now, we have to talk a little bit about this because we have to learn from it. So let's start here. There are two primary kinds of chatbots, if you categorize them by how they work. There are retrieval-based chatbots, and there are generative-based chatbots. Now, retrieval-based models are much simpler. Both Rose from the Cosmopolitan Hotel and the Cindy Gallup chatbot we looked at are retrieval-based chatbots. These bots can only say things from a very limited database of pre-written responses. There's no artificial intelligence involved. They can't freestyle. They can't improvise. And no matter what you say to them, they can only respond from a set of predefined answers. This retrieval-based chatbot, for example, was created during the 2016 USA presidential election, and it was designed to be informative to voters no matter what their political allegiance was.
What is your drug policy?
So I have been working with elected officials to try to figure out how do we put together a new approach, a new law enforcement approach, so that first-time, low-level drug users are not sent to jail.
That's why I don't drink. I don't drink. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't take drugs. Those are the three good things. I won't tell you the bad thing.
So it gives voters a clear idea of each candidate's position. It serves up authentic audio recordings, so there's no filtering, there's no framing, there's no editorializing. It's the candidates themselves quoted in their own words. It's fairly objective. There's no political slant. These are also retrieval-based chatbots, but these were designed with clear political agendas. These are a few of the chatbots designed by Donald Trump's political opponents in 2016. Now, these people who created these believed that if the American public actually knew some of the horrible things that this man has said over his life and career, no one would vote for him. So they replicate some of the absolutely horrible quotes he said over 30 years in the public eye. This approach did not work. These bots did not reach the people who voted for Donald Trump. Although they were designed to embarrass and disqualify him and his campaign, they didn't work. Now, here's an example of the second category of chatbots. This is a generative-based model powered by artificial intelligence. Now, this one is called Deep Drumpf. It exists on Twitter, and it's a great example of an AI-driven bot that makes up its own answers. This bot does not use pre-written answers. It generates answers based on a training data set it's been programmed with. So in this case, the creator of this Twitter bot fed a number of Donald Trump's speeches and quotes to this chatbot, and then the chatbot comes up with new and original tweets based on the training data it's been given. So Donald Trump never actually said any of these tweets, but they sound like him. They sound like plausible things he would say because this AI bot has the same stylistic tweeting style as the man it's been modeled after. So retrieval-based and generative-based are the two main categories of chatbots, and they have different capabilities. Retrieval-based models are rule-based. They can only reply with pre-written responses, and even though they're limited, you can still do an enormous amount of work within these parameters. Generative-based chatbots are rooted in AI. Closed domain here means that they can only talk about certain issues or they've only been given a limited training data set, like the Deep Drumpf bot. Now this top set on the top right, this is open domain, and these are the hardest to create. When a chatbot is open and incorporating new data into its processes constantly, that means it's evolving constantly. Now a good example of a general AI chatbot would be Jarvis from the Iron Man movies, or Samantha, the chatbot from the Spike Jonze movie Her, or Siri or Amazon's Alexa. These are chatbots with a very high ceiling and limitless potential because they are constantly evolving. Unless we have specialized knowledge and the resources to build generative-based AI model chatbots, we shouldn't even try. It's much easier to build retrieval-based chatbots. Less can go wrong. With general AI chatbots, all things can go haywire very, very quickly. For example, the most vivid illustration of things going wrong is probably the most public chatbot debacle of the last few years, which was the sad, telling episode of Microsoft Tay. Tay was created in 2016 and launched on Twitter as an example of cutting-edge AI chatbot technology. Microsoft programmed this chatbot with the ability to talk about anything, And like all artificial intelligence, it would learn from the interactions it had online. And theoretically, it would get smarter and more empathetic as humanity embraced it. It would reflect humanity. Now, the problem is, reflecting the soul of the internet is going to lead down some dark paths. Humanity didn't embrace Tay. Left to its own devices, humanity hacked Tay in less than a day. And within 24 hours of launch, Microsoft had to take Tay down because this bot had transformed into a public relations nightmare and has started tweeting absolutely horrifying things like this. Now, these are 3 sample tweets, but there are 96,000 more. And in 24 hours, this bot went from earnest and innocent to full-on Nazi. And it did that because that's what people fed it on Twitter. So the thing that we can learn from this episode is if you make an AI chatbot that lives online, it's going to quickly reflect the character of the internet, the character of the people who interact with it. And that is probably not a good thing. The example of Tay demonstrates that if we're creating chatbots or producing anything designed to live online that will interact with people, we need to be acutely aware that the internet is inherently a volatile, unpredictable space filled with rogue elements. The way people behave and communicate online is very different from how those exact same people behave and talk in the real world. And one of the issues we're just beginning to come to terms with is that very often we can't tell the difference between a real person and an online persona. And one of the reasons that that's getting more complicated is because the internet is full of fake accounts. It's full of bots. Now, these numbers come from multiple audits of Twitter. 48 million Twitter accounts are bots. Now, Twitter recently has tried to purge some of its worst bots, its worst offenders, but the problem is this is not a localized infection that can be quarantined. It can't be hacked off like a diseased limb. This is a sickness that is circulating in the bloodstream of social media. Bots are so deeply integrated throughout the Twitter ecosystem that it is impossible to get rid of them. There's no means to do so, no reliable method, and there's no financial incentive for Twitter either because Twitter's market value depends on the size of its user base. So the company killing off 15% of its own site is not going to make its own shareholders happy. Now that means bots are here to stay on all social media platforms. There are plenty of bots that aren't malicious, and the influence of these automated accounts is growing with every passing day. Now, for example, this is from an audit of Donald Trump's Twitter account, which reveals that almost half of his followers are not real people. That sounds bad, but 35% of President Obama's followers were similarly fake, and up to 59% of Pope Francis's followers appear to be fake. So it's actually quite common for celebrities to have a sizable following made up of fake accounts. Now, what's uncommon, however, is that Donald Trump also has a significant number of followers who appear to be human, who present themselves as human, who have human profile pictures, who have the strong, distinctive personalities of human beings. They have networks of friends, and to the casual observer, they look like genuine, real, authentic people. But it turns out that a sizable number of these followers are actually secret bots. And this is important because there's a difference between accounts that are openly automated, that have been designed to be programs, and accounts that are deliberately working to deceive people. When bots are tweeting and retweeting and seeding hashtags, driving political debate, hijacking conversations and dialogues, and making certain news go viral, what they're doing is manipulating the public. And this is one very clear way that democracies are being hacked across the world. Not only is public discourse being hacked by bots, but the influencer economy we are engaged with has also been undermined. Now, this article is a New York Times expose on the business of buying fake followers, buying fans on social media's black market. Now, I'll send you the full PDF, which I hope you'll read on your own time because it's fascinating. But in the meantime, have a look at how much it costs to buy fake followers online today. You can buy 5 million YouTube views for a video for $20,000. You can buy 100,000 Twitter followers for $1,000 or $200, somewhere in between there. You can buy dislikes, you can buy views, you can buy comments, you can buy Spotify streams, SoundCloud listens, spam, retweets, anything. It's all for sale. And what you're buying is largely the bad seeds of the chatbot revolution. Bots today are driving the majority of internet traffic. This percentage of 52% is only going to increase as we continually fill the online world with more automated software. Humanity is destined to be a minority on the internet. As smart programs and bots proliferate, the online environment is going to be dominated less by celebrities in the spotlight and more by those who control and deploy bot armies from the shadows. Now that brings us to botnets. Botnets represent the most advanced weaponization of this technology. A botnet is a collection of automated accounts that are controlled by a single user. It's like a clone army that obeys the orders of a single ruler with a remote control. Now, I think my favorite example of a botnet is the Star Wars botnet that was discovered on Twitter in 2013. Researchers stumbled over 350,000 Twitter accounts that initially appeared to be humans obsessed with the Star Wars movies, the Star Wars franchise. But every single one of these accounts was actually created entirely by one person on a Windows phone. All these accounts were just sitting there on Twitter, dormant, and no one could figure out their purpose. Why were they made? What were they for? No one actually could tell. But if someone deployed these bots with a clear intent, 350,000 automated social media accounts can trigger all sorts of mayhem. So here's a great example of this from just a few months ago. This past Christmas season, a very carefully programmed botnet went on Amazon and Best Buy's websites and in an unprecedented effort purchased all of the popular Christmas toys that were available for sale. So the moment a certain group of in-demand Christmas toys were released for sale to the public, this botnet, which was christened the Grinch bots, purchased Amazon's entire inventory and then successfully resold those same toys on eBay at much higher prices. Now, for example, I wanted to buy one of these Nintendo NES Classic consoles, which were available in theory for $70. But when I went online a day after they were released, none were available. They appeared to be all sold out. And that's because the Grinch bots had been programmed to buy up every single one of them. Then this botnet resold those consoles on eBay for up to $13,000 each. So the price of this item went from $70 to $13,000. Now that's genius and mean and pure greed encompassed in one botnet campaign. And it's also an example of how botnets can evade security protocols. They used software to corner a market, and they made a ton of money off of unsuspecting people. Now the thing is, whoever was operating this scheme did nothing illegal. There are no laws about botnets buying up products. Amazon was not prepared for this kind of concerted, well-executed campaign. All they could do was just watch and marvel after the fact and then worry about the implications about the whole episode. Now that's a significant and important point. None of us are equipped right now to deal with how this technology is being leveraged against populations, how this technology has been weaponized. We're going to continually encounter situations like the 2016 election in the United States where something happens, and then after the fact we're left trying to decipher what exactly just happened. Now this leads me to this last phenomenon that I'm just going to touch on, which is the phenomenon of internet trolling. A decade ago, internet trolls were basically just individual troublemakers, a certain kind of person who got pleasure from provoking people online. They were annoying, but you didn't really have to take them seriously. You could dismiss them as individuals or as a fringe element. But today, trolling has become an entire culture and a movement. And the people who practice it have become disproportionately powerful online because they can hijack websites, conversations, elections, brands, and public discourse in general. A troll used to be a lone, single person at their computer. Then trolls began to launch concerted, collective campaigns against certain groups of people, the best example of which would probably be the Gamergate episode from 2014. Now today, troll bots and troll botnets are orchestrating guerrilla information warfare campaigns against entire populations. They're being deployed online the same way imperial generals used to deploy physical armies. They are hijacking dialogues in countries. And that leads me back to this guy. Because the way this man uses language and the way bot technology is being used to echo him and retweet him and harass his opponents is fundamentally altering the media landscape we operate in. No matter where you are or what country you live in, all of us are presently enduring a constant barrage of automated misinformation. And this is one of the reasons why I think all of us should be building bots. Because we cannot surrender this technology to the loudest and harshest voices among us. We have to reclaim some semblance of integrity in these channels. Because if we don't, our messages, our brands, our clients will be marginalized. And frankly, we have better stories to tell than this guy. Now, as the online world gets more complicated and more confusing, people will seek out simplicity and authenticity. So we have the opportunity to carve out those characteristics with the chatbots we design for our clients. So let's give our brands distinct voices online that are entertaining and enjoyable for people to interact with. That is our mission with bots today. Even with all their issues, bots offer us an amazing new tool we can use to help build relationships with people. If we're going to build chatbots, we should take into account some considerations. Here's a quick checklist we should run through if we decide that we're going to start building chatbots. Now, firstly, identify your opportunities. Identify which of your clients could benefit from launching a chatbot. Are there conversations that people are having with customer service representatives that might be more efficient with bots? Is there a process you can automate? Could your clients implement conversational commerce to sell products? Build for need. 2. Identify existing brand assets. Does your brand have a popular icon or a character you've developed in the past whose voice and personality could function as the basis for an online chatbot? You probably already have something in your portfolio, a beloved character from a past campaign that had real cultural traction, a brand icon that can be resurrected online as a chatbot. All of our brands have existing properties and assets that are worth looking at, so we can leverage the heritage of our brands that we've already developed. We don't have to start from scratch. 3. Have a purpose. Don't build a chatbot for your client that doesn't have a reason for being. Don't build a chatbot that doesn't serve a clear function. It's a waste of time and energy. Without the clarity of a real reason, your bot will likely flounder. Find a clear, narrow focus and objective and return to it continually as you build. 4. Make sure it works. If you roll out a chatbot and it doesn't work, that is straight up malpractice and it's a form of sabotage, and you're essentially helping your client's competitors. Now, this should be self-evident, but apparently it's not because there are tons of broken, dysfunctional chatbots online. You've probably encountered a few. I know I have. So, don't launch anything that hasn't been excessively beta tested and scrutinized and that functions well. Take the necessary time to make sure that what you're doing works, because if a chatbot can't do what it's supposed to do, it reflects badly on everyone involved. 5. Don't lie to people. Don't make bots that pretend to be human. It's incredibly tacky and it's bad form. Tell all of your users that your bot is a bot. People appreciate the honesty. And don't overpromise what your bot can deliver. It is better to lower people's expectations than to raise them to unreasonable heights. Number 6, make it easy. You have to make it as easy and simple as possible to use and interact with. In a conversation with a user, the bot has to do all the work. It should do most of the heavy lifting. You can design using buttons and offer people choices. You have to make what you're creating very straightforward to use. So don't confuse people with complexity. 7. Give your bot a personality. No one likes generic, soulless interactions. If you're designing for a brand, design a chatbot rooted in the brand essence that people will find entertaining. You have a huge canvas to work with that has infinite possibilities. Now, don't take that canvas and draw a stick figure. Give your bot depth, nuance, and character. 8. Use language. Words are powerful, so don't make a machine that sounds like a machine. Find a linguistic approach that you've settled on and let a talented copywriter or team of copywriters breathe life into the clay of your bot. If your chatbot sounds like every other chatbot out there, you've done something wrong. 9. Establish an escalation protocol. Make sure there is human oversight over your bot. Make sure users have the ability to exit the chatbot conversation and speak to a real human being if that's what they want. If you don't build in an escape route, you're setting your users up for frustration. You're setting yourself up for failure because not everything can be handled by a bot. People have to be in the loop. Build a human being into the architecture of your technology. 10. Expect failure. You have to have an ongoing development plan. You can't roll out something that's interactive and then just forget about it. It has to be continually refined. You have to process the feedback you generate. You have to collect the data that your bot generates. And there have to be metrics and tracking information that enable you to improve on what you've created. We have to design for ongoing evolution. Now that is a 10-point checklist for chatbot makers. There are more things we should consider, but if you start there, you should do quite well with whatever we decide to build for our clients. Now, here are a few chatbot building platforms available to anyone with an internet connection. There are hundreds of other platforms you could use, dozens of which come highly recommended, and these are just some of the most highly reputed, easy-to-use ones. But it's a little arbitrary to make a list like this when so many viable solutions exist, but this is a good starting point. Now, these are 14. If you find this list intimidating, consider just starting with one. If you're looking to experiment, to tool around, to just make some bots with no pressure, I recommend rebot.me, which is free, it's easy to use, all you need is an email address. Now, I built these 4 bots in a single lunch hour. The first bot is called the difficult client bot. It starts every conversation by asking you to make the logo bigger. The second bot is a depressing bot from Nietzsche that reproduces quotes from Nietzsche. The third is a bot that reproduces quotes from the Godfather movies. And this last bot is called the Creep bot, which just recites Radiohead lyrics at you, regardless of what you say to it. Now, all of us need to start somewhere with this tech. And if you just want to experiment without any pressure, without a client watching over your shoulders, this is a good place to brainstorm, to just design and sketch out some ideas for your own amusement. If you want to go directly to something that's professional grade, I want to introduce you to this. This is BotBot, which is a fascinating creation solution that won a couple of Cannes Lions in 2017. So this is from reply.ai, and what it is a bot that uses automation to build bots. It will walk you through a process that ends up with your own custom chatbot for your business. Within a few minutes, you'll have a professional grade bot ready to deploy. So if you don't want to get into the weeds of building something from scratch, you can use these templates. It's a great solution because it does all the work for you the way a bot is supposed to.
Every big brand is building a chatbot. Bots help companies reach more people, sell more, and offer better customer service. Problem is, building a bot takes hundreds of hours. Coding, natural language processing, content mapping, testing, artificial intelligence, quality assurance, testing, bot deployment knowledge. All this costs money, which big businesses can afford, but small businesses can't. That's why the people at reply.ai, a startup that builds chatbots, created me. I'm BotBot, the bot that builds bots. I can help small business owners with no technical expertise build messenger bots in just 5 minutes from their phones.
That's awesome!
I know, right? Here, I'll show you how. First, pick a bot template that fits your small business best. Like a fitness bot that books classes at gyms and fitness studios. Or an answer bot that answers your customers' most common questions. Or the food bot that helps with food delivery. So, let's say you have a restaurant. We chat on Messenger to create your bot. You can give it a name, connect it to the restaurant delivery service like EatStreet. Define the details of your service, and integrate your bot smoothly into your business. Finally, we publish it on your restaurant's Facebook page. And just like that, it's alive! Now anyone can order food from your bot. BotBot turns what used to be a complex and expensive development process into a simple conversation, and a simple conversation into new business.
Thanks, BotBot.
You're welcome, welcome.
Now those are a couple different options you can use when you want to build. And there's some platforms to help you start, and I would encourage you to start building right away. Don't wait. New technology might be intimidating, but really, and with bots in particular, we should all just start experimenting and see where it leads us. The sooner we get started, the better our eventual client-facing work will be. And this is an important consideration as well. This mantra hangs on a wall at Google, and it's a good reminder for anyone working in a creative field. We cannot be afraid to mess up. Often solutions don't appear until we've exhausted paths or options or ideas that don't work. So we shouldn't be afraid to just try and see what happens, and if what we're doing doesn't work or if we fail along the way, just get back up and start over. That's the only way we'll arrive at where we hope to be. And these are a few more mantras from Silicon Valley worth considering. If we embrace new tech, we are also embracing the inevitable fluctuations and frustrations that come with it. We have to build, fail, build some more, fail some more, while keeping in mind that the objective is to iterate quickly. And at the end of repeating this process however many times as necessary, eventually we'll end up with refined products and ideas that we can be proud of, ideas we can sell to our clients. So I hope, taking everything I've just shared with you into account, that you'll give building chatbots a shot, because it's fun. So I want to thank you for your time. I'm grateful you've taken some time out of your day to listen to me, and I look forward to seeing what you do with what I've shared with you.